Alright guys, what's good? SonicSol here with another video. This time I want to talk about Momochi kind of brought up something that has happened yet again with Street Fighter 6. You know, the beta allegations, the crack beta drama and shit. So it's time we talk about it. Jiyuna basically made this tweet, translated what Momochi said in his stream. So what he said was, I feel like those playing on the cracked version should be permanently banned. Capcom is being too soft with those players. There are certain overseas players who have even shown the crack on stream or have tweeted it out. In that article, it basically goes into more detail about the situation. Currently, there's a demo version, which is what I'm currently playing on. I'm playing on the demo version of it. The cracked version of the beta does not have the character select at all. Only the demo. So in this demo, you can only play with two characters, Ryu and Luke, and it's on the PS4 and PS5 versions. There's no training mode in there. You only get to try just like the first bit of World Tour. Essentially, it's just like a very bare bones version of the game before release. But a cracked version, the closed beta test that happened, there were two of them that happened, two closed beta tests that happened, that allowed for you to use more characters. So there were 8 characters in total: Juri, Jamie, Ryu, Luke, Ken, Chun-Li, Kimberly, I think I'm forgetting one more. Whatever. Basically, there were 8 characters in there, and they basically allowed for you to use training mode in that actual closed beta. And as a result, you know, people used it to practice. And there's a lot more modes in there. There was Extreme Battle as well that was in the game's files. And what happened is, after the closed beta period ended, people hacked the PC version of the beta, and now everybody was able to play the cracked beta over here in America. And it's been available for a long time. I say 5-6 months now it's been available. And it seems that there are many people who do not recognize that playing the cracked versions is a bad thing, perhaps due to cultural differences. So it mentions the Kappachino article, which is basically just another subreddit. Kappa used to be the main subreddit, but then that shit got shut down. So the members of the Kappachino shit, they made their own subreddit, which is this, and they held a poll, which was okay, do you think that the cracked Street Fighter 6 beta is cheating? Do you think you're cheating for using it? And a lot of people said no. But this is obviously, you know, central with America or Canada or Europe, but it's not really a lot of people from Japan that really voted this. It's mostly an English board. But that being said, regardless, the article is basically due to cultural differences. It might be yo, people don't really think it's cheating. For that reason, top players in North America usually practice with the cracked version, and recently at offline competitions in North America. I played the cracked version of Street Fighter 6 in our room last night. I know it's available. Basically, they're referring to some offline competitions. I know Defend the North had it. They had cracked betas there for you to play. So I get it, you know, I get that it's accessible in America. Some user basically said, are you really doing the product version outside of distribution? So the Twitch user was Papega mode and literally thought that Momochi was playing on the cracked beta when he wasn't. He was playing on the demo. So Momochi responded, seriously? There's a legal training mode, isn't there? It's on this. If you do that, overseas players will say you're a crack guy. Basically, this is to refer to people in the FGC in America calling people who are playing the Street Fighter 6 beta past the period crackers, cracked players, right? Cracked beta players. So this is he's being told by a Twitch user that, yo, you might be called a cracked player for playing on the beta. And then he's like, yo, I think people who play on the cracked versions of the game should be permanently banned. And basically someone in the Twitch chat showed off to Momochi that, yo, Punk was playing on this shit. And if you don't know what the cracked beta does, basically, you could put files that access the RE framework, and on the top left corner of the game, there'll be a menu that you could select from that will allow you to be able to bypass the title screen and select what characters you want and then play it. And you can also access training mode through this. In the stream, this is basically where they got the source for Momochi's comment. I will say this is a big issue. Nephew did talk about this. In the second closed beta, there was tournaments for the game. And as you can see here, it was almost $2,530 raised for L.I. Joe's Street Fighter 6 beta tournament. And then there were other tournaments that were happening, with Can Opener. And in all of them, Chris T basically won all of them. Chris T basically won a shit ton of these tournaments and walked out with $3,000, $4,000 from those online tournaments during the closed beta period. And it was obvious that Chris T had a lot more knowledge than everybody else with the game, and Chris T was using the crack. You know, a lot of people pretty much saw or assumed or knew that Chris T used the crack in this situation. And you could see his knowledge in, you know, multiple places in the tournament. When he fought NuckleDu, to explain this, right, he put NuckleDu in burnout, right, because he countered him because he made him whiff a grab. He did a shimmy, so he lost the last bit of his drive meter. NuckleDu now has to get up, and he has no more drive gauge. And he's got to, like, try to play the Fireball War, but he can't because at some point, you know, you got to deal with this Dragon Lash. So I'll let Punk basically speak on this. I'll let him speak on this, bro.
Losing, making the crack beta player nervous is tight. Oh, you done. Look, he know real block strings for that shit. My son got full block strings for burn last.
So what Punk means by the full block string, when someone's in burnout, they basically take 4 extra frames of block stun. So the person who's not in burnout will be awarded 4 extra frames of advantage on all their moves. As a result, the Dragon Lash that he blocked here, the first one, this Dragon Lash is normally +2, but now it becomes +6, right? But he tries to make it a true block string, which it is, because this jab right here is 4 frames. So it's a true block string. So now this jab, which is normally +2, is now +4 on block. And this standing medium punch is, I think, 5 or 6 frames, meaning that it's a frame trap. He can't press a button here. And so he's able to just go into the target combo and cancel directly into another Dragon Lash, which is a true block string. He can't do nothing about it. And as a result, this is like a guard string. Like, you got to hold this. And he can carry you to the corner with this and potentially stun you. So why I mention all this and why I have so much knowledge on it is because I played on the crack as well. I played the crack beta. And in here, I took that knowledge from what Chris T did, and I practiced it. I had the dummy basically press jab in all of this, and I tested it. If he tries to press jab here, he gets punished by the drive impact. If he tries to jump out because he doesn't want to get drive impacted, then he's going to get hit because he's in block stun. He's in extra added frames of block stun. He gets stunned, right? And if he tries to, like, do anything else, if he tries to throw, he's outside of throw range, he gets counter hit. So you see, like, this is what happens when you have the crack beta. You can practice these things. You cannot practice this in the demo because the demo does not have a legit training mode that shows you the frame data or allows you to make the dummy respond with different actions. And that's a big factor. And that's kind of what led to Chris T being able to do well in most of these tournaments and ultimately winning in most of these online tournaments. And this is what Momochi was talking about. Momochi was talking about this exact fact of, like, yo, like, these players should be banned because they have access to this game and the knowledge before everybody else. Now, I do want to give my point of view about this. I can kind of understand where Momochi is coming from a little bit for 2 reasons. One is the fact of, well, everyone's going to be able to have that knowledge beforehand. And as a result, we're going to be very much at a disadvantage as opposed to everybody else playing. You know, everyone else is going to have knowledge before us, and we don't have access to the cracked beta, and they do, so they get access to the shit beforehand, right? The other reason is the sense of honor among, like, the Japanese players. So you have to understand that when Street Fighter V came out, Street Fighter V had a really terrible launch on release, and the game was pretty much flopping, right? And it was up to the pro players in Japan to keep that game alive. And they did. Basically, they kept Street Fighter V alive. And without the pro players holding on to the game, then Street Fighter V would have died. And Daigo mentions it here when he responds to a comment. You know, they pointed out, the Twitch user, Street Fighter V would have became obsolete, dead, without the top players playing it and hyping it up. He says he absolutely agrees with this statement. If we pros didn't focus on Street Fighter V so much, then Street Fighter V would have been dead. And he's right. And that's how a lot of the Japanese players feel. You know, you'll get this same sentiment with Tokido and Gachikun. A lot of people look up to Daigo and kind of look up to some of his philosophies. And even if they don't, they still follow that cultural rule, which goes back to the cultural differences that people talk about and that this article talk about when it comes in relationship to, is it cheating using the beta crack, right? So they want to support Street Fighter 6. They want to support Capcom in Japan, and they want to do it legitimately. And so on that front, on that end, they don't really play the crack beta over there. And even when they were given the option to play the closed beta, like they didn't sign, some of them didn't sign up for it. Daigo didn't play the closed beta. Momochi did, Tokido did, I believe Bonchan did. Some of the Japanese players over there did play in the closed beta, but some people opted not to. So that's the main thing. While I respect that level of honor and that level of sportsmanship, at the same time, when it comes down to my ultimate opinion about this, everyone's going to take whatever advantage they get in order to win. And that's just how these games work. And part of the biggest thing about fighting games is knowledge. If you have more knowledge over your opponent, you are going to beat them. It's just as simple as that. I brought up Street Fighter V and the argument of the pros supporting Street Fighter V because I want you guys to remember 2015 when we got access to the Street Fighter V beta and it was an open beta. Past that period, it was on PC and people were playing the hacked version of the Street Fighter V beta. You had people like Viscant and Filipino Champ playing on that shit. Myself included. I played on the cracked beta for Street Fighter V. The game came out, people played Street Fighter V, they played the beta for that shit, and you know what happened? Who was winning? Filipino Champ did well, Viscant not so much. Not to shit on Viscant, Viscant is an EVO champion. Viscant is good at Marvel. I'm not shitting on him when I say that, but what I am saying is, he didn't really do that well in Street Fighter V. And Filipino Champ did well in the beginning with Street Fighter V with his Dhalsim, but later on he got overshadowed by rising talent, better players. You know, IDOM started to come up in top, you know. So you have to understand that even though there's access to the beta, it's not going to immediately mean that those players are going to have an advantage in the long-term longevity cycle, like the lifespan of the game. They're only going to have a head start in the beginning, but it's not going to make them better. I sure shit didn't win Capcom Cup. I didn't even fucking win a major in Street Fighter fucking 5. The best I could do was get fucking top 32. So I placed, but I never ever fucking won a major in Street Fighter 5. So that should tell you, like, if you're a cracked player, even if you're an experienced player, it's still not enough to carry you in the longevity, in the long cycle of the game. And the game is different. Street Fighter 6 is going to be way different than Street Fighter 5 in terms of the meter management with the drive gauge. And the fundamental things that you do in a fighting game is all legacy shit that people will already know. So it's just a different game as well. So all I'm trying to say is, that's the first thing, is legacy skill and experience always matters. And that's still going to triumph over a lot of the people that use the crack that were winning in the beginning, but then will later lose. The other thing is, there's constant updates to the game, right? Street Fighter V had a ton of updates throughout its life cycle, and Street Fighter 6 will have a ton of updates throughout its life cycle as well. There were patch notes for the second closed beta that changed how long you had of a time to hit confirm Chun-Li's crouching medium kick, right? And in this demo, in the demo that I'm playing in, they nerfed Ryu's crouching fierce in Drive Rush. So if you do Ryu's Drive Rush crouching heavy punch, you cannot do stand medium punch after anymore. You could do that in the previous patch, but in this new patch for the game before release, you cannot do that. So they literally changed the frame data as well. But the only knowledge that's going to carry over with this new game from the beta crack is your knowledge of this game's rules and the fundamentals of this game, like how to use the drive meter, what the drive meter is used for, the rules behind the added 4 frames of block stun with Drive Rush and in Burnout, how you can mitigate the drive usage and the regen rate of the drive gauge, and understanding that. All of those things are going to be things that are going to be important for players that are playing Street Fighter 6. But it's going to be something that everyone's going to learn over time. So that goes into my first point as to why I don't really think it's cheating that much. Another side point too, a kind of like third reason why I don't think it's cheating. Japan has as much access to the cracked beta as people in America. It is not solely based on like, yo, well, if you're in America, you get to play early. No, Japan can play early too if they so choose. But it ties into the fact of the honor that they build up in Japan. So that's why they don't want to use it. But at the end of the day, it's what advantage do you want to give yourself, right? In general, I don't think it's cheating, but I understand how Momochi feels in terms of the knowledge gap. I also do want to bring up another fact. Street Fighter 4 was a game that released in 2009 worldwide. However, in 2008, it was released solely in Japan and in Japanese arcades, specifically in Japanese arcades. Japan had 1 extra year to practice with Street Fighter 4 before the rest of the world. They got a chance to play the game and level up, and it really, in turn, created a lot of momentum for Japanese players within the first year of the game. But there were people that ended up being able to make a name for themselves through Street Fighter 4 as the game developed throughout the years. You had people like Justin Wong, obviously. You had people like PR Balrog, obviously. 801 Strider, Snake Eyes. A lot of people in America were still able to make a Knuckle Do. They were all able to make names for themselves, even though they didn't get a chance to play the game as early as Japanese players for Street Fighter 4. So, as a result, do you really think it's something that you should be saying we should ban people using the cracked beta? No, because I could say the same thing, bro. Like, yo, how about I just ban you for playing the fucking Japanese arcade version of Street Fighter 4? Or shouldn't I ban you for playing Street Fighter 5, the beta crack? You know? It doesn't really, it's not really correlating with that, you know? What about on your end when you had the game early? Another thing I want to mention as well, by the way, is the fact of Capcom themselves. Capcom released Street Fighter 5. They released Street Fighter 5 with the beta on PC, and it got hacked. And then they decided to do it again with Street Fighter 6. So why would they do it again, knowing full well that they can get their game compromised? People will compromise it on PC. I was expecting them to not do a PC beta and solely keep it on PS4, PS5. Yet for some reason, they still do it again. Because I feel at the end of the day, they still have to test the crossplay factor of the game. But ultimately, it's going to have these security problems when it comes to the demo. There's just too many nuanced things, there's just too many things that all work in tandem to create this amalgamation of a problem. And like I said, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be trying to ban players over them playing the crack, especially when we have a lot of these other situations that have set precedent to show, hey, well, even though you got to play the game early, motherfuckers still couldn't fucking win, right? Only certain people got to win, and later on, more people got better at the game. That's my overall take on it. What are your guys' thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think using the Street Fighter 6 cracked beta with the RE framework mod, do you think that that's cheating? Or do you think it's fair? Let me know. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because it was really intriguing of a topic and I wanted to give my insight on it. Please leave a comment and of course like the video and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you get to know more of what's going on with Street Fighter 6. Anyway, y'all be easy. Peace.